In the days when Adaeze's life turned like a stubborn milestone, work was hard to find. She had come to the city with dreams that shone brighter than the electric light of Lagos. But dreams, they say, like rainwater on a tin roof, have a way of drying up too quickly. For months, she searched for work. Shops said no. Offices said no. Even relatives closed their door, saying times were hard. And truly, times were hard. Her mother was in the village with her younger brother, who was always falling sick. Every week, there was one phone call or the other about hospital bills. Adaeze would listen quietly and then promise, I will find a way. But she had no way. So when she heard about a job as a housemaid for the wealthy Okafor's family, she did not waste time. It was Chika, her mother's cousin, who told her he worked there as a cook. They are rich people, he said. Big house, good pay, but do your work and mind your business. That is the only advice I can give you. Adaeze nodded, not because she understood, but because she had no other choice. She arrived on a Monday morning. The Okafor's house stood behind tall gates, its wall painted white like a church building. It looked peaceful, but there was something cold about it. Madam Stella Okafor opened the door. She was a tall woman, her skin smooth like palm oil, her hair tied in a neat scarf. Everything about her spoke of money. The gold chain on her neck, the perfume that followed when she moved, the way she looked at people, as if weighing them on a scale. At the new girl, she asked. Her voice was not harsh, but it carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. Yes, ma, Adaeze said. Come in. Inside the house was nothing like Adaeze had ever seen before. The chairs were white. The floor shone like water under the sun, and a big painting of a man with a serious face hung on the wall. Wondered if the man in the painting was Chief Okafor himself. Soon he appeared, walking down the stairs with slow confidence of a man who owned everything. His eyes could see. He was in his late 40s with a round belly that pushed against his shirt. Oh, this is our new house girl, he said, smiling too easy. Work well here, and you will be happy. Adaeze only nodded. Was not sure what to make of him yet. Stella showed her a room at the back of the house where she would stay. Then she gave her a list of duties: cleaning, cooking help, laundry, serving food. It was nothing Adaeze had not done before, but at the end, Stella's face changed. There is one rule you must never break, said slowly. The guest room upstairs stayed locked. You have no reason to go there. Do you hear me? I hear, ma, Adaeze replied, though in her heart, she wondered why anyone would lock up a guest room in such a big house. Later, she met Chika in the kitchen. He greeted her warmly, but leaned close to whisper, do your work, collect your money, and keep your eyes away from family matters. That is how we survive here. Words sat in her mind like a stone at the bottom of a pot. Night came, but the house was too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you hear things you are not meant to hear. Lying in her narrow bed, Adaeze closed her eyes, hoping for sleep. Then she heard someone crying, and doors closing upstairs. She sat up, holding her breath. Through the small windows, she saw Madam Stella outside in the compound, talking on the phone, her voice low. This thing must not get out, she said. Nobody must ever know. Adaeze lay back on her bed, but she couldn't sleep. Something in the house was not right. That followed were quiet but tensed. Adaeze learned quickly that life in Okafor's house was not like any other she had known. The walls, white and shining, seemed to hold their own secrets. Okafor and his wife Stella lived like people who wanted the world to see them as perfect. Every Sunday, they dressed in matching clothes and drove to the church in their big jeep. People greeted them with respect. Some even called them our power couple. But inside the house, Adaeze noticed things were different. Chief Okafor laughed loudly when visitors came. At home, he spoke like a man who expected people to obey before he finished talking. His voice carried across the house when he argued on the phone, words sharp like broken bottle. Madame Stella, on the other hand, moved around like a queen in her palace, calm, beautiful, untouchable. She gave instruction with the lift of an eyebrow. She never raised her voice, but there was something in her eyes that made people hurry to do her biddings. Time she looked troubled was when the sound of the crying came from the locked guest room upstairs. Adaeze heard it twice that week, soft crying, like a child trying not to be heard. Each time, Stella's face grew tight as she rushed upstairs, key jingling in her hands. No one explained anything. Chika, the cook, was the only person who spoke to Adaeze like a friend. One evening, as they paid yam together, Adaeze asked Chika, "Who stays in that room upstairs?" Chika paused for a moment, then shook his head slowly. "My sister, let me advise you. There are things you should not put your eyes into if you want to last here. Do your work, collect your money, and leave family matters to the family." Said it simply, like a man stating the fact, then changed the topic to the rising price of tomatoes in the market. That evening, the sun was going down. Adaeze carried a basket of clothes to the backyard. From upstairs came the sound again, soft crying, almost like a prayer. She stopped. Then she heard voices. Stella and Chief Okafor, they were arguing. Their words were low at first, but then, if Okafor's voice rose, "We cannot keep her like this forever. One day people will find out." Stella's reply was sharp, full of anger. "Better people find out. To destroy this family's name, do you know what is at stake here?" Adaeze stood frozen by the clothesline, the words burning into her ear. As the days passed, Adaeze began to understand one thing. A house can be big and beautiful, yet hold more secrets than a thick forest at night. On the outside, the Okafor's family looked perfect. Stella dressed like a queen whenever she stepped out. Chief Okafor laughed loudly with his friends and business partners. But inside, the air was changing. Sometimes Stella moved around the house with a face like carved wood. No smile, no warmth. Other times, she stared into spaces as if counting things only she could see. If Okafor, on the other hand, grew restless, he made more phone calls in his study, his voice rising like the wind before a storm. Adaeze watched silently, doing her work, but her ears caught things she was not supposed to hear. One afternoon, cleaning the corridor upstairs, Adaeze saw the door to the guest room open slightly. That door has always stayed locked, like a stubborn box. She stopped sweeping and looked inside. She saw only a small bed, a chair, and on the floor, a child's doll with one eye missing. Before she could look further, Stella's footstep echoed behind her. "What are you doing there?" Stella's voice was sharp. Adaeze bowed her head quickly. "I was only sweeping, ma." Stella shut the door at once and locked it again. "Next time, sweep from the other side," she said coldly. "I don't want you hanging around here." Adaeze nodded and left, but the picture of that small bed and door stayed in her mind like a stubborn stain. Later that evening, Chika found her sitting by the kitchen door, lost in thought. "My sister," he said softly, "I told you before, this house has things you should not touch, even with a long stick. If you want peace, close your ears and blind your eyes." But it was too late for Adaeze to close her ears. She had already heard too much. One night, long after everyone had gone to bed, Adaeze woke up, trusty. As she walked to the kitchen for water, she heard voices down the corridor. She froze. It was Chief Okafor and Stella. They were arguing again. I told you, Chief said angrily. We cannot keep her here like a prisoner. One day somebody will talk. Stella replied, you are the one who caused this. If the world finds out, it's your name that will scatter. Like a broken glass. My too. Think of the business, the church, the family's name. Chief looked at her. So, we will just keep her locked up. Is that your plan? Adaeze felt her heart beat fast. She tiptoed back to her room, afraid they would see her. One evening, Madam Stella left the house for a church meeting. Chief Okafor had driven out earlier to attend some business gathering. Adaeze was folding laundry in the corridor when she noticed something unusual. The door to the guest room was unlocked. Key was hanging in the lock like someone had been in a hurry. She stood very still, her heart beating fast. Chika was in the kitchen, singing softly to himself as he prepared food for the next day. The driver had gone out to the mechanic. No one was around. Adaeze told herself to keep walking. It was none of her business, but her feet refused to move. She pushed the doors gently and slipped in. Inside was a bed, in the corner, a small table and a single chair. And then she saw her, a girl no more than 10 or 11, sitting on the bed with her knees drawn to her chest. Her hair was rough, her eyes too big for her thin face. She looked at Adaeze with fear. At first, like a bird that had been caged too long and no longer trusts open doors. Hello, Adaeze asked softly, as if speaking to a child in pain. What is your name? The girl hesitated before whispering, Amara. Her voice was small, but it carried years of silence. Adaeze sat on the chair. Do you stay here alone? Amara nodded slowly. She looked towards the door, as if expecting someone to come in and scold her for talking. Why are you here? Adaeze asked. Amara's eyes filled with tears. They don't want people to know about me, she said. My father, he says it will destroy everything. Adaeze felt her heart jump. Father, could she mean Chief Okafor? Before she could ask more, Amara continued, her voice trembling. My mother died when I was small. They brought me here last year. Madam says nobody must know. Adaeze sat there for a moment, her mind turning like a grinding stone. She wanted to ask more, but footsteps sounded in the corridor. Adaeze stood quickly, her heart beating fast. She slipped out before anyone saw her. That night, she could not sleep. The image of the small girl with big eyes and a voice too soft for her age stayed with her. It was clear now. Amara was Chief Okafor's child, hidden away like a shameful thing the world must not see. And Adaeze knew that the secrets would not stay locked forever. After Adaeze found Amara in the guest room, life in Okafor's house no longer felt the same. She still cleaned the floors and washed clothes, but every time she passed that upstairs corridor, her chest grew tight. The sound of the little girl's voice stayed with her. She wanted to ask Chika about the child, but words refused to come each time she opened her mouth. Something in his eyes told her he already knew and had chosen silence long ago. One afternoon, Madam Stella returned from the market with bags of foodstuffs. She gave out instruction in her usual calm way. Chief will be back late tonight. She told Chika, make pepper soup for him. And Adaeze, she added without looking at her, polish the sitting room floor before evening. Visitors are coming tomorrow. Sma, Adaeze said. Stella was the kind of woman who made you feel she could see inside your head, even when she didn't speak. That night, Adaeze was serving food in the dining room when she heard Chief Okafor call her from the veranda. His voice was friendly. You are working hard in this house, he said, smiling. I hope they are treating you well. Yes, sir, Adaeze replied. He leaned against the rail, looking out into the dark compound. Sometimes, life gives us burden, he said slowly. Things we must carry quietly so the world doesn't laugh at us. He turned to her. He smiled tight. Do you understand what I mean? Adaeze nodded, even though she didn't know what to say. Some matters, he continued, are family matters. Outsiders should not interfere. The words rolled off his tongue smoothly, but Adaeze felt the warning inside them. 2 nights later, she overheard another fight between Stella and Chief Okafor. You think money can hide everything? Stella's voice was sharp, like palm wine turning sore. Girl is growing. How long before people began to ask questions? Chief banged the table so hard. I said I will handle everything. Do you want to ruin everything I have built? The words rolled and felt like angry drums. Adaeze stayed in the corridor, heart beating fast. The next day, Chika finally spoke. I have been here 5 years, he said quietly. As they walked in the kitchen, I have seen many things, but this one, he shook his head slowly. This one will not end well. What do you mean? Adaeze asked, her voice low. Chika looked towards the door before speaking again. People with money fear only 2 things, shame and the law. If either comes near, they fight like wounded animals. You have to be careful. He paused, eyes heavy. That child upstairs, she's the reason for all this trouble. I heard her mother died in the village. Chief brought her here, but Madame doesn't want the world to know that her husband has another woman, another child. Adaeze felt her stomach twist. So they kept her locked up. Chika nodded slowly. For the family name, for their reputation. But secret like this, they don't stay buried forever. Evening, Chief Okafor called Adaeze into the study. The room smelled of cigar smoke and leather chairs. He offered her a cold bottle of malt before speaking. You are a smart girl, he said. I know you have seen things, heard things. Adaeze kept her eyes on the floor. I can help you, Chief continued. Money, maybe even a better job. All I ask is you keep the family matters inside this house. If outsiders hear things, it will not be well or good for anybody. Do you understand? His words were soft, but Adaeze felt the steel underneath. She nodded. He smiled and dismissed her, but as she left the study, voice followed her like a shadow. Some things are better forgotten. On a Saturday morning, 2 men in black suits came to the house. They stayed long inside the study with Chief Okafor. Voices rose several times, angry, sharp, and full of threats. When they left, Chief threw a glass against the wall, his face red with anger. That evening, Madame Stella packed 2 bags in silence. Adaeze saw her from the corridor. Madame, are you traveling? Adaeze asked before she could stop herself. Stella looked at her with eyes that carried both fire and fear. This house will soon break apart, she said quietly. When it does, stand far away. If you want to live in peace. She did not explain further. 2 nights later, it happened. Adaeze woke to the sound of shouting downstairs. Chief Okafor's voice boomed like thunder, followed by Stella's sharper tone. Doors slammed. Chika knocked on Adaeze's door. Police are here, he whispered. His face was pale. Adaeze followed him to the corridor. Below, 3 policemen stood in the living room, speaking to Chief and Stella. A man from child welfare was with them. I have received a report, one officer said firmly. There is a child here, being kept in unlawful condition. Chief denied it at first. His voice shook with anger. This is my house, my family matter. Nobody will come here and tell me how to run it. But the police pushed past him. Stella stood still, arms crossed, eyes on the floor. She said nothing as the officers climbed the step towards the guest room. When they opened the door, Amara sat on the bed, small and frightened, clutching her doll with one of the eyes missing. Officers spoke gently to her. She followed them out slowly, glancing back as if unsure whether the world outside would be kinder than the room she was leaving behind. Chief shouted, argued, even tried to offer money, but Stella's voice cut through the noise at last. Enough, she said sharply. Let them take her. This life we are living is not life. I will not carry this shame anymore. By morning, the news has spread. Chief Okafor was taken in for questioning. Stella left the house the same day, her two small bags in the boot of a taxi, her face calm but unreadable. Chika told Adaeze in a low voice that she was traveling abroad to stay with her sister. Maybe she's tired of fighting, he said. The house grew quiet after that. Too quiet. Adaeze left a week later. She had saved enough money to start afresh somewhere else, but she carried the memory of Amara with her, the small girl with big eyes, who had lived too long behind locked doors. Months later, in a bus park, Adaeze saw a newspaper. On the back page was a picture of Amara smiling beside a woman from child welfare. The caption said she had been placed with a foster family. For the first time in a long while, Adaeze felt the weight on her chest grow lighter. The house of Okafor has fallen, but the child at its center was finally free.